Well, greetings from Atlanta, Georgia. I am so honored to be a part of the Sandals Church Virtual Leadership Conference. I've been a huge fan of Sandals Church for many years now, Pastor Matt Brown and the team there. And so thank you for being part of this conference. And obviously we're talking about agility in these days and how do we deliver change in a new way, or maybe a new way to help us move forward in these challenging days. And so to help you do that today, to talk about agility, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite words, and it's this word, for. And I believe as we're in these challenging days, we are in essence hitting the reset button. And what I mean by that is we're rethinking our purpose perhaps, we're rethinking our vision, mission perhaps, or maybe we are reminding everyone of what our mission and vision was the whole time. So as we talk about agility and delivering change in these days, I want to talk to you about this word. And one of my favorite definitions of this word is to be in favor of. And when we hit the reset button and when we talk about agility, one of the most important things that we can do in this season is to gather our teams together and to ask this question, hey, who are we for? Who is our organization ultimately for? Who are we designed to serve? And what are we for? And when we understand that, that allows us to be more agile toward the future and allow us to move toward the future in maybe different ways because we leave the past behind, because we're reminded of who and what we are for. And as challenging as these days have been, I'm telling you, it's an extraordinary opportunity for agile businesses who hit the reset button. It's an extraordinary opportunity for agile churches who hit the reset button. And it's an extraordinary opportunity for agile nonprofit organizations to hit the reset button and to begin to ask the question, hey, ultimately, what and who are we for? And the reason, because of that, the reason that's true, and here's our bottom line and where we're going to tease this out today, is it's no longer about being the best company in the world, it's about being the best company for the world. And what I mean by this is that if you're a business leader today, what I want to prove to you, and you know this, is that doing good is good for business. Now, I know that's something like you would think a pastor would say, but I'm going to give you some research and some practical strategies to actually implement that. And again, as challenging as these days are, I'm telling you, it's an extraordinary opportunity to take purpose and lift purpose up at a higher level. And for those of you in the business world, let me tell you this, and this is an extraordinary opportunity for the future. And we're going to see this in the future. The more purpose you have, the more profit you'll have. Because purpose fuels profit, and profit will fuel purpose. And for business leaders to think, in many ways, more like a nonprofit leader, and for nonprofit leaders to understand that they can learn from the business world, this is an opportunity for you to be more agile for the future. But to do that, you have to clarify who and what your organization is for. Now, to get there, here's where we're going for a few minutes today. We're going to go on a little bit of a journey, and I'm going to talk to you about two questions that can help you grow your organization, whether it's your business, your church, or nonprofit. And we're going to talk about how these two questions can grow you. And as we talk about being agile in this conference, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these two questions that can help you grow your organization. Because all of us should be having a desire to grow our organization. Nobody starts an organization that says, you know what, someday I hope we go out of business. Someday I hope we close down. No one does that. Now, what's also true is how you characterize and define growth might look different from how another organization characterizes and defines growth. So how growth looks can be different for many organizations. But at the end of the day, we should all want to grow. And grow means impacting more people. Grow means thriving in a community. And here's why. One of the ways we change the world is, I think, one thriving business and organization at a time. Because when you have a thriving business or organization in a community, that community gets better, one business, one organization at a time. So my purpose today is to help you have two questions that you can take to your team so that your organization, in even these challenging days, can move forward in a compelling way so that you can grow and move forward. Now, to do that, we're going to go on a little bit of a marketing journey, okay? So hang with me. I spent a number of years in marketing and really still am in marketing if you think of it that way. And so I'm going to take you on a little bit of a marketing journey. And you've probably been asked this question before. And the question is, hey, how did you hear about us? How did you hear about our business? How did you hear about our church? How did you hear about our organization? And they typically list a few options for you to check off the box. It would be something like, hey, did you hear about us from television, radio, billboard, social media? And there's this final box called the other box. And we all know which box gets checked the most. It's this one. Now, the other box drives marketing people like me crazy. And here's why. We can control paid media. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, pay for media. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we can control that. The other box, we can't control. And here's what we know the other box is. The other box is the most powerful form of advertising any organization will ever receive, and that is positive word of mouth advertising. It's one thing for a business to talk about how great it is. It's a completely different level of credibility when the customers talk about how great the business is. It's one thing for a church to talk about how great that church is. It's a completely different level of credibility when people in the community talk about how great that church is. And you know this, but the most credible fuel for growth is when customers or people who participate in your nonprofit talk about you. And here's why. And again, you know this to be true. A business is no longer what it tells customers it is. A business is what customers tell other customers it is. Let me say this again. A business is no longer what it tells customers it is. A business is what customers tell other customers it is. Ladies and gentlemen, at the Sandals Church Virtual Leadership Conference, this is the ball game. If you want to be more agile in the future ahead, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to understand how to lead in such a way that you create what I call vision carriers for your business, vision carriers for your church, vision carriers for your organization, that they tell their friends about you. Here's the power of creating vision carriers. Here's the power of positive word of mouth advertising. The more vision carriers you have, the more vision casters you have. The more vision carriers you have that are talking about your organization, your church, your business, the more vision casters that you have. But the challenge is, how do you get here? How do you create vision carriers? Or how do you create positive word of mouth advertising? It seems so elusive. It seems so mysterious. And I understand that. In fact, when I was in college, Advertising 101, the professor gets up and says, hey, we all know that positive word of mouth advertising is the greatest form of advertising the world will ever know. We don't know how to do that, so we're going to spend the rest of the semester on paid advertising. And I totally understood that, but I kind of wanted to raise my hand and go, I don't think this has to be that mysterious. I think there's a way for you and for me and for our organizations to be more agile than that. I think there's a way to unlock the other box. Well, to do that, we have to go back to what we're talking about today. 2 questions that help grow your organization and you. And when you understand these 2 questions, and when you understand the power of these 2 questions, here's what it'll do. It'll allow you to be more agile. It'll allow you to hit the reset button. And it will allow you to talk to your teams to clarify who and what you're for. So here's what I want to do. I want to walk you through these 2 questions and to show you the power of these 2 questions and how they can unlock the other box and allow your organization to create more vision carriers. And as you do, you grow and thrive. And as you grow and thrive, the community gets a little bit better, and so does the world. That's what's at stake here. So 2 questions that grow your organization and you. Number 1, what do you want to be known for? What does your organization want to be known for? And here's the thing. When you look at this question, it seems really easy. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Don't confuse simple and easy. This question is really hard. And the reason I say that is there are a lot of organizations who feel like they went on a retreat 5 years ago and figured this out. They came up with a 12-paragraph mission statement that's in a filing cabinet or in a computer file somewhere. We did that 5 years ago. We got that. I'm telling you, that is a huge assumption for any organization. And even if you do have it, what we're going to discover is there's a mistake that many organizations make. And this is why. To hit the reset button, to be more agile, one of the things you're going to have to do is to get around this question. And what I encourage leaders to do is to do a vision inventory, to walk around the office or do it on a Zoom call or a virtual meeting and say, hey, I'm going to take some time here. I want us to go around the call here. I would like for you to answer this question. What do you think we want to be known for? And as a leader, I just want you to listen. And I want you to listen to see if there's synergy, there's consistency, there's understanding about this. And if there's confusion among the team about this, the warning lights on your organizational dashboard should be blinking. And here's why. When it comes to this question, when there's confusion in the office space, there is confusion in the marketplace. When the team isn't really clear about what we want to be known for, when the team isn't really clear about who the organization is ultimately for, then there's going to be mixed signals in the marketplace. And yet, on the other hand, when purpose, we're talking about purpose, when people really understand who and what we're for, when purpose lives in an organization, the organization lives in purpose. Now, let me give you a couple of practical examples of what I'm talking about here. One, I think, is a great example of a company that got this right, and an example of a company that, this is an incredible company, but I think it shows how easy it is to drift off of being really clear about what we want to be known for. So let me give you the first example of a company that I think has really done a great job of getting really clear about what they want to be known for and continues to communicate that to their team. I don't know if you've ever bought shoes from Zappos, the online shoe retailer. That's an amazing company. They went from 0 sales to $1 billion in sales in 10 years. 0 to $1 billion in 10 years. They were recently bought by Amazon, like we all will be one day. And if you were to ask Tony Hsieh, the CEO and founder of Zappos, hey, what do you want to be known for? He wouldn't say shoes. In fact, Tony was recently quoted in a podcast by saying this, I don't even like shoes. I don't even know if he should have said that out loud, but what he's done an extraordinary job of is he said, hey, what we want to be known for, we want to be known for delivering happiness. That's what we want to be known for. Now, you look at this and you think, what? Deliver happiness? This has nothing to do with shoes. How does this translate to the bottom line of a business? Well, I think Tony was onto something. Obviously, I just mentioned they went from 0 to $1 billion in sales in 10 years. That's a lot of shoes, but it's a lot of delivering happiness. So I was so curious about this. A few years ago, I went out to visit Zappos out in Las Vegas and walked in, and everywhere you went, there were these signs that said, deliver happiness, deliver happiness, deliver happiness. What they were doing is they were showing that leaders are repeaters. They were staying on message. They were saying it over and over and over again. I even went into the restroom, and there was this big sign in the restroom that said, deliver happiness, which was a little weird. But at least they're still staying on message. So I went to the call center, and you know how this works. These are the wonderful folks that take calls in from customers, and you know, you would think the goal is to get a customer on the phone and off the phone so that you can go to the next customer. But they introduced me to one of the call center employees, one of the staff there, and they introduced me as a legend. They introduced her as a legend. And I said, wow, you're a legend here. Tell me that story. So one day she got a phone call in from a customer, and she could tell in the course of the conversation that the customer wasn't having a great day. She just sensed that she was sad on the other end of the phone. And knowing that she's here to deliver happiness, the staff member at Zappos said, can I ask you a question, a personal question? And the caller said, sure. She said, are you okay? You sound a little sad today. Pause. And the caller on the other end said, yes, my husband passed away recently, and it's just been a difficult season. Well, for that staff member, She could relate to that. So that began a conversation. That, don't miss this, lasted 6 hours. And at the end of the 6-hour conversation, she didn't even end up buying shoes. But that was okay, because their goal was to deliver happiness, and they ultimately knew that the next time that customer really needed shoes, they knew where she would call. And here, rather than go, you wasted 6 hours, they said you invested a day's worth of work into one customer and delivered happiness. Way to go. That's the power of knowing who and what we want to be known for. Now, let me show you how tricky this can be, how easy it is to kind of slip off of trying to be really clear about what we want to be known for. I love this company, Burger King, big fan of them. But a few years ago, they had invited a guy named Al Reese, who's a marketing legend here from the Atlanta area, to come help them. And the reason they needed help at Burger King is because their chicken sandwich sales weren't doing very well. So they called Al and said, Al, can you come in and meet with us at Burger King to help us increase our chicken sandwich sales? So Al said, I'll come in. So the meeting begins, and immediately Al raises his hand and says, can we go outside? And they're all looking at him and going, what? He goes, yeah, can we go outside? Well, this is Al Reese. He's a marketing legend, so okay, whatever Al Reese says, we'll do. So they go outside, and he leads them to the corporate headquarters sign, and it says Burger King. And Al says, on the count of 3, I want you to say the name of the company out loud. And they're all looking at each other like this is really weird. But he goes, okay, 3, 2, 1, Burger King. And Al goes, exactly. So here's my question. Why are you selling chicken sandwiches? You are the king of burgers. You're not the king of chicken sandwiches. And that was the last day that Al worked on the Burger King account. But my point is this. When it comes to this, you can't be known for everything. You do need to be known for something. What is that? Your organization can't be known for everything. If you're trying to be known for everything, you will not be agile. You'll be stuck. So you can't be known for everything, but you do need to be known for something. What is that? And if the team isn't clear about that, the customers and the community never will. So the question that you and I have to wrestle with if we're going to be more agile, if we're going to hit the reset button, is this one. What do you want to be known for? But that's question number 1. Question number 2, it's the sticky one. It's the harder one. It's the one that, you pick up the rocks and you see all the squiggly things underneath. This is that, we're going to have the courage to pick up the rock and really see? Because here's question number 2, and question number 2 isn't yours. Question number 2 isn't mine. Question number 2, it's our customers. It's the people who participate in our organizations. Here's the question number 2 that's so challenging. Question number 2 is, if question number 1 is, what do you want to be known for? Question number 2 is, what are you known for? What are you known for? This question number 1, that's our vision. That's our unique niche in the marketplace, if you will. This is what Steve Jobs would say is our dent in the universe. Question 2 is your customer's reflection back to you on whether or not they are experiencing your vision and your mission. But don't miss this, Sandals. This is the power of these 2 questions. Don't miss this. When the answers to these 2 questions match, are you listening? When the answers to these 2 questions match, when what you want to be known for is actually what you are known for in the community, guess what happens? You unlock the other box. You create a sales force for free. Because people talk about your church, people talk about your business, people talk about your organization because they have experienced your unique niche in the marketplace, and they tell others about you. Now, that sounds pretty simple, isn't it? It's a little bit more complicated than that. Because let's be honest, in any organization in the world, there's a gap between those 2 questions. There's a gap between what you want to be known for and what you are known for. And thriving organizations in the future, if you're going to be more agile, here's your goal, at least one of your goals. Your goal should be to come to work every single day and to shrink the gap between those 2 questions. When everybody understands, whether they're in operations or admin or customer service or marketing or whatever, when they understand that we're all in essence doing the same thing. Our roles might look a little bit different, but we're all doing the same thing. We have come to work today to close the gap between what we want to be known for and what we are known for. And that should be your goal going forward as you hit the reset button and you try to become more agile in these days. Now the question is, how do you shrink the gap? How do you shrink the gap between those two questions? Well, to do that, you're going to have to organize, maybe restructure, or maybe recast vision around being four groups of people. I call this 4 for 4. Being four groups of people. And when I wrote the book, basically what I did is I outlined strategies for the 4 groups of people that your organization needs to be for. So let me walk you through this real quick, and I'm going to give you a couple of strategies for each one. I go into much more detail in the book. But when you are for these 4 groups of people, you shrink the gap between what you want to be known for and what you are known for. So here's the 4 groups that your organization needs to be for. For the customer, or let's say in Matt's situation as a pastor at Sandals Church or here at Gwinnett Church, the attender or member of the church, if you will. For the team, for the larger community, and ultimately for you. Now, when I show this to businesses and when I consult with businesses, they look at this list and they go, well, duh. Well, of course, Jeff, this is what we do. But when I look at marketing in today's world, and I think this is slowly, in a good way, starting to fade away, when I look at a lot of advertising and marketing and a lot of organizational structures, that it looks like this, the organizations aren't really for these 4 groups of people as much as they're trying to get these 4 groups of people to be for the business. It looks like something like this, that these 4 groups of people, that the highlight, the focus is the business. The highlight or focus is the organization. And we try to get these people to be raving fans of this business. And there's nothing wrong with being raving fans about this business, but this is old school marketing that's fading away. This is allowing you to stay stuck if the highlight and the focus is on the business. I see this all the time on Instagram. Businesses say, look how great we are. Did you know that we're better than our competitors? Did you know how wonderful? Look at this great. We are so awesome. Did you know that? And I put this in the book that if you thought of it like this, if a business was a person, many businesses would be considered narcissists. Look how great we are. We are amazing. And what I'm asking you to do is to shift the focus, to move the spotlight away from look how great our organization is, to move the spotlight to these 4 groups of people. And when you do that, it looks like this, that the highlight isn't on the business or the organization. The highlight is on these 4 groups. And I put in the book that thriving organizations of the future will be less concerned with creating fans. No, there's nothing wrong with creating fans. We want to do that. But they will be less concerned with creating fans and more concerned with becoming a fan of the customer, the community, the team, and ultimately how this organization serves you. So in our remaining time together, I want to give you a strategy for each of these. This isn't an exhaustive list. I go in much more detail in the book. But let me give you just a few strategies, at least one strategy for each one of these. First, for the customer or attender of your organization. And when it comes to this, we have to understand that the more personable that we can be with our customer, especially in these days, the more personable, the more remarkable. The more personable that you can be, the more remarkable. I love what Andy Stanley says, a pastor in Atlanta, Georgia, when he says, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. Do for one, wow one, and you wish you could do that for everyone. But over time, doing for one adds up to a lot of someones. And I say many organizations making a gigantic mistake and leaving this out when it comes to social media. I just want to give you a social media example because many organizations don't do social media. They think they do, but many organizations forget the social in social media and they're just practicing digital media. But when you're personable and when you shift the spotlight, you put the spotlight on the people that you're trying to serve. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, a personal example. My daughter, Jessie, is a senior in college, and a couple of years ago, she was home working for the summer for an organization, and they gave a preview of Jessie or introduced Jessie on their Instagram page. They said, this is Jessie Henderson. She likes this food. She loves this hobby, and her favorite musical duo is Johnny Swim, okay? Well, I'd never heard of Johnny Swim. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Johnny Swim, but they're a wonderful musical duo that I now know. Well, they tagged Johnny Swim in this Instagram post. And you have to understand, she's such a huge fan that as she was getting near the end of her summer and heading back to college, Johnny Swim was actually coming to our area here in Atlanta. And my wife approached me and said, hey, we were talking about this. Hey, Johnny Swim's coming to Atlanta. What if we buy tickets for our family? We have 4 people in our family. And for an extra $50 a ticket, we can get backstage passes for Jessie to actually meet Johnny Swim. And I said, well, honey, I'm not good at math, but I'm told that 50 times 4 is $200, and that's a lot of money. And, we're paying for a college. I don't know that we need to do backstage passes, okay? So that was the conversation when this Instagram post happened. So this Instagram post happens. Next thing I know, we get a little text, our text family thread called Fam Jam starts blowing up. And Jessie put this to our family, OMG, and took a picture. And she's a pastor's kid, which means OMG means, oh my gosh, look what happened. And what happened is when Jessie said, I'm obsessed with Johnny Swim on this Instagram post, Johnny Swim commented back and said, we're obsessed with you too, Jessie. Love you. Well, Jessie's friends saw that. They start texting her, did you see that Johnny Swim talked to you? You know, in that moment, what Johnny Swim did? They got really personal. And guess what happened? We bought the backstage passes. In fact, here's a picture of this moment. This is Johnny Swim, all right? Do you know why they're smiling? It's because they're $200 richer with one click of a button. And don't miss this, Sandals. Some of you watching today, you've never heard of Johnny Swim. And you know what I'm doing today? I'm a vision carrier for them. You should listen to their music. They're awesome. Do you know how much money they're paying me for this? $0. And they should be paying me for this, but they're not, because I'm a vision carrier, because they made my daughter's day. And if you make my daughter's day, I'm going to make your day. This is the power of getting personal and shifting the spotlight to the customer. Now, should Johnny Swim tell us when their new CD or their new music's coming out, their concert tour? Absolutely. But don't stop there. Don't keep the spotlight on you. Put the spotlight on Jessie and say, we see you. And when it comes to customers, this is the way that you do this when you're genuinely for the customer. There's actually 4 processes to this. I don't have time to get into this, but it calls belonging leads to buying. Hey, Jessie, you belong to the Johnny Swim community. So as a result, we bought tickets. There's purpose in the purchase, and you bake purpose into the purchase. I go into this in the book. And then when you do this, you have influence beyond the business and you have impact from the business. And people, when they experience that, they cheer your business and organization on. That's the power of genuinely and authentically being for the people you're trying to serve. A lot more examples, but that's just one. Now, as important as being for the customer is, I think this next one is actually even more important, and it's for the team. To be for the team. And here's why this is actually more important than being for the customer. The reason for this is that the customer, you know this, the customer is eventually treated like the team is treated. The customer is eventually treated like the team is treated. I spent a number of years in the quick service restaurant industry, and I'm telling you, when I walked up to the counter of a quick service restaurant, I could tell how the team behind the counter was being treated because it was flowing right to me. If I was greeted with a smile, if they said, so glad that you're here, that's how they were being treated behind the counter. If it looked like they couldn't care less about me being there, if it looked like I was bothering them as I was trying to give them money, then that's how they were being treated. You can't get away from this principle. You can say, we have the best customer service strategy in the world, but if your team is dysfunctional, just give it enough time. That dysfunction will flow to the community. Let me talk to the pastors for a moment. I know I've been talking a lot to business leaders. This is, and you know this, I grew up in the church. Maybe many of you are pastors' kids, and you know this when it comes to church. There's a notorious, maybe unknown secret when it comes to the church, and that's this. When it comes to a lot of churches, the church is a terrible place to work. When it comes to a lot of churches, the church is a terrible place to work. And I'm telling you, if a church is a terrible place to work, just give it enough time, that dysfunction will flow to the community. This is why I put in the book a for the team strategy, and I don't have time to go through this today, but basically this is just a circular strategy that if you just came to work and did this day in and day out, it would cause your organization, your culture to leap forward. This is the kind of the circle that I try to go through as a leader. And your culture is determined by default or by design. So I just want to read this real quick, but I don't have time to get into it. But each one of these has a specific strategy. First is to believe abundantly. And the question isn't, do you believe in your team? I know you do. The question is, when is the last time you told them you believed in them? Appreciate consistently. What is your gratitude system? One of the best things that you can do as a leader, handwritten thank you notes. What is your intentional development system? I put if you don't have an intentional development system, I put 3-step strategy: thought leadership, people leadership, project leadership in the book. Very easy. The fourth one is to listen actively. So sometimes as leaders, we're tempted to just talk all the time. What we need to do is ask questions and be quiet. And then say, tell me more. Because the better questions you ask, the better answers you'll find. And then live the vision repeatedly, because vision, rarely repeated, is quickly forgotten. So that's for the team. But what's most exciting to me is for the community. Because if you've got a for the customer strategy and you've got a for the team strategy, that's awesome. But then you get to have an impact on the world. And let me talk to the business leaders right now. When you compete more on purpose, because being for the community is about purpose, when you compete more on purpose than on price, your profit grows, because ultimately you don't have to play the price game. Now, that's why I said from the very beginning in our time together, in today's world, doing good is good for business. And again, I know this sounds like something a pastor would say, but there is research that is telling us that the world ahead of us is wanting to know, what are you doing to make our world a better place? Let me show you some research from a company called the Havas Group. They do research called Meaningful Brands every year, and this is what they're finding. That 75% expect brands to contribute to our well-being and quality of life, but only 40% believe brands are actually doing this, which is an extraordinary opportunity for any company out there to let your community and your customers know that we want to make a difference. 74% would not care if the brands they used disappeared, and only 27% believe brands they use make life better. And what organizations or research organizations are discovering is the younger the demographic goes, the higher this goes. There's an expectation with Generation Z. They're saying, what are you doing to help make the world a better place? That's why, if you want to be agile, that's why, if you want to hit the reset button, you've got to get around these two questions and then shrink the gap between what you want to be known for and what you are known for, so that the community at large can feel your difference. So that's for the customer, for the team, for the community. And I give you some specific examples of how to do that in the book. But the final thing might be, it really comes down to you. Because here's why I say this. This is why it might seem a little odd to go, we want to be, for others, and now I'm talking about for you. But here's why this is so important. I want to tell you to come in for a landing here. The best gift that you can give your business or your organization is a healthy, inspired you. So let me give you one strategy I gave in the book for you to do this, to remain healthy and inspired. And that is to simply ask big. Today, before you go to bed tonight, I want you to ask one person something big, something that kind of causes you to think there's no way this will happen. But to do that, you have to remain inspired, because if you're not remaining inspired, you're not going to ask big. And one of the things I've decided to do in my life is to ask big and not rob people of the opportunity to possibly say yes. Yes, I'm going to get a lot of no's, but I'm going to get a few yeses. And that will make all the difference as I try to serve the people around me. Let me close with this story to give you an example of this, of asking big. I mentioned my daughter when she graduated from high school. By the way, I have a son too. I love him very much. I just don't have any stories about him today. When she graduated from high school, she said, "Dad, can we go out to California? We want to go out." So we went out to San Francisco and, went just an amazing trip. But I discovered that we were going to be near Pixar, the movie studios. Well, that was a big deal for me because growing up, the kids loved, Finding Nemo and Toy Story and Monsters, Inc. and all that. And so I had the opportunity to meet Ed Catmull, the president of Pixar, a few years ago, just for about 5 minutes. We got our picture together, and I kept the picture. And so when we were planning this trip out there, I thought, how cool would it be for our family if we got to get a private family tour of the Pixar movie studios, right? So I decided to write Ed Catmull a letter. "Dear Mr. Catmull, we met a few years ago. I know you don't remember me, but here's a picture, #stalker. And my daughter graduated from high school. We're coming out from Atlanta, Georgia. Could we get a private tour of Pixar because these kids grew up watching your films?" And I'm writing this letter, and in one side of my brain, I'm thinking, this is going to be so fun if this happens. And the other side of my brain, I'm thinking, this is a complete, total waste of my time. By the way, do you talk to yourself? Because I do. I talk to myself all the time. In fact, it's these two little parts of my brain. This would be amazing. Don't you have better things to do? And what I'm asking you to do is to stop listening to this voice and to continue to listen to this voice, because if you listen to this voice, you're going to be healthy. You're going to be inspired. You're going to dream big, and you're going to ask big. So I write the letter, put it in the mail. It was like putting a letter in a bottle and throwing it in the ocean. I had no idea if this would actually even make its way to Pixar. And I didn't hear anything for 4 months. But one day, I get a call from Oakland, California. At least that's what it said. I don't know anyone from Oakland, California. And I just hit, decline. But later that night, I discovered I had a voicemail from Oakland, California. And I thought, well, who's this? And I listened to the voicemail, and it said, "Mr. Henderson, this is Wendy from Ed Catmull's office. We got your letter. We would love for you to give your family a private tour of Pixar." And I just looked at my phone and said, shut up. It actually worked. Fast forward, we drive up to the iconic Pixar gates that Steve Jobs actually designed, right? And we pull up, and I roll down the window. There's a security guard. He doesn't look too happy at first. I'm like, oh no, this isn't going to happen. And I said, "We're the Hendersons from Swanee, Georgia," going, oh no, please let this happen. And then he smiles and he says, "Welcome, Henderson family from Swanee, Georgia. We're so glad you're here." They gave us these little badges that said "strangers from the outside." I love that. We got this incredible tour. We got to go see the office, Steve Jobs' office. We got to see all the Academy Awards. We actually, I don't know, maybe we were just really nice. They were so nice to us. We had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and they let us go by and see them working on a film at that time called Coco, which was amazing. But my favorite, and then they bought us lunch. My favorite part, though, is as we're walking through Pixar offices, their studios, my daughter pulls me aside and says, "Dad, this is so cool." And then I thought of that moment writing that letter, and I thought, I'm so glad I asked big. If you're going to be for others, you're going to have to be healthy, and you're going to have to fight to remain inspired. So who are you going to ask big of today? Hey, they may say no. They may not respond. Your responsibility is not their answer. Your responsibility is to make the ask. But as you do, you are showing to yourself that you are choosing to remain inspired. That's why, for me, this picture is on my office at home as a reminder. Jeff, keep asking big. It's why these two questions, what do you want to be known for and what are you known for? It's not just for your organization. This doesn't just grow your business, your church, your nonprofit. If you ask this of you, it can actually grow you. Here's how this works. If I were to ask you, hey, what do you want to be known for? How would you answer this? And then, you know what I would do to see where you are on this? I would have to go here and ask the people in your life. And the reality for you and the reality for me is there's probably a gap right now, isn't there? So what are you going to do in your personal life to close the gap? And when you do that as a leader, and when you do that as an organization, here's what's happened. And here's what happens, and here's why this is so important, or one of the reasons. And my challenge that I'll leave you with today. In a hypercritical, cynical world, often known for what it's against, let's be a community of leaders that are known for who and what we're for. So you want to talk about being agile? You want to talk about hitting the reset button? Hey, lean into this. Remind your organization, here's who we are for. Remind your organization, here's what we are for. Close the gap between those two questions. And when you do, your organization and your purpose will grow.